Hi everyone, I want to talk a little bit about my Impale speed farming setup that I've been using this season. I've already done this with the rework in season 25 and now again because it is actually extremely strong. So there is Gold Demon Hunter and there is Marauders and there is Shadows, and I believe Shadows is actually the best you can do on a Demon Hunter by a little margin. Demon Hunter in general is kind of solid. It's not really top of the line because Inner Monk exists, but I guess next patch will fix that. And then this will actually probably be one of the best speed farming setups in the game for us to play. So this might actually be quite valuable to already get to know. So this is actually nothing super special, but it is a very greedy setup I made here. And also want to highlight this. It is not super easy to play. It is very fast paced and you don't have perma vengeance. You are going to be very squishy when vengeance is down. And in general, you gotta be quite careful when you do this and go at exactly the right tier. Potentially, you might have to invest a little bit more in defenses so that you can actually survive a hit or two. So this is really not intended for, tanking stuff. You're supposed to one-shot stuff, you're supposed to go fast and not get hit. But you do get rewarded with very fast runs, which is very helpful to gear up the Demon Hunter and also gain a decent amount of XP. You can probably get a little bit more experience per hour if you play Marauders on like a very high tier, like 115 plus, and you do something like 3-minute runs. Here the target is something like 90 to 110 seconds. So you just want to stay somewhere below 2 minutes. And this is kind of like the best place to farm with this build. There's Echoing Fury in this setup, so you have very high attack speed, you get extra movement speed. There's a smoke screen displacement, giving you even more move speed. And in general, you just, go so fast that also your Squirt's Necklace will usually not drop very much unless you are a little bit sloppy or there's like maybe certain elite affixes and certain monsters like ghosts that sometimes hit you. But in general, you want to keep up your buffs and you're going to be very strong. You're going to be like two-shotting yellows when you hit them with all the knives. And also bosses melt in like 3-4 seconds. So this is kind of the target. So in my case, I've been running with a Paragon 2K character, augmented, pretty solid gear. I was running like 104s under those circumstances. And, when your character is a bit weaker, maybe you start out at something like 95, you go up to 100 or so quite easily. And then from there on, you're gonna grind your way up a bit. A lot of people ask me about the exact setup, so this is what I played. I also made a planner version here. This is the last one, the greedy speed GR setup. I have also added a little mention of this in the max roll guide for Impale. So the main changes to like a regular speed farming build are the cube mostly. So we have Echoing Fury, where instead of Dawn, so there is no permanent vengeance, and you actually try to stack up a bit of cooldown reduction, but not really all that much. So you have something like maybe half or so uptime of vengeance, but sometimes you get channeling pardons, that's quite nice. Sometimes you get sheer pardons, that's quite nice. So those pardons will usually make your life a lot easier, and then it's not really such a big deal. Another neat way to gain extra toughness and protect your Squirt's Necklace is the St. Archius Gauge. So you get a shield when you get hit by elite enemies. So this doesn't help you against trash monsters, but most of the time the elites are kind of the problem, and this will help you with this. There are some other options if you want to go like a more tanky approach, but then again, this setup kind of falls apart. Since the setup wants to go really fast, you want to have a lot of movement speed, so smoke screen displacement is included. This also helps you to keep up your Squirt's Necklace, and you try to spend this as much as possible for extra mobility. It procs your tactical advantage for the movement speed. You have preparation, focused mind to gain extra discipline, and you also have blood vengeance to gain extra discipline from health globes. And with those things combined, you can spam smoke screen pretty much all the time, or very close to it at least. And you can keep up the tactical advantage. You're going to be running very fast and have pretty solid squares uptime, even on some monster types that have a lot of like ranged enemies. And against elites, you're usually quite well protected with the St. Archius Gauge, as long as you don't take more than 1 or 2 hits. The rest of the build is fairly standard, just like damage improvements. So the Bane of the Trap, the Zaze, the Powerful, there's Focus and Restraint, there's Ambush. There's no Card of the Week here because typically you're mostly throwing knives at range, because with the rework in Season 25, the over penetration rune, the cold rune Impale, actually got some AoE, so it does 1/3 of the damage to other enemies and full damage to the first enemy hit. So typically you try to focus on like the big targets, like the elites and like the big trash monsters, and try to position yourself so that the knives fly out into big trash packs and also get those out of the way. For focus and restraint, you will have to activate bolas once every 5 seconds. So you just throw them once in a while. Otherwise, you just spam knives as much as possible. You press Vengeance pretty much on cooldown, and this is pretty much how you play it. As I said, this setup is not exactly very tanky, so when your Vengeance is down, you gotta be careful. And if you want to make it more tanky, then I would only recommend you to just play the regular speed GR version, which has a Dawn, which can have Molten Wildebeest, for example. You could theoretically run this gem as well to get this little shield sometimes, but it doesn't really do all that much when you are already so squishy anyway. But at least I wanted to highlight this regular speed GR version in case you're having trouble and you want to play Impale anyway. So this is up there. It's basically just a cube and a legendary gem changed and maybe a passive or so. And this is pretty much about it. And that's pretty much also it for the setup. If you want to see more about Impale, about these different versions that you can see here in the planner, you can go check out the Maxwell guide. So there's a lot of variations with stationary and mobile setups and fire and cold, and there's some little details. I also have my old detailed guide for all those setups, especially for pushing, where this becomes relevant and you have like different styles to choose from. So go check it out if you like, if you enjoy Impale a lot and you want to push it. And otherwise, hope you like the setup here. Good luck for the rest of season 26. Subscribe for more Diablo content, and I'll see you guys next time.